probably been stated on here by the guy right next to me about 100 times when talking about the quintessential Miami homer gamer guy that's committed to Miami football and made that decision, stuck to it regardless of all comers, all suitors. That guy's back with the U, and he is one Duke Johnson. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And of course, spring ball has sprung. Cam Underwood's here from State of the U. It's Miami live here at the Voice of College Football. Cam, how you doing tonight?
I am great. Glad to be here. Sorry I missed you guys last week, but family comes first. Had some family in town, so that's where I was. So,
Fun.
but had a great
Nice.
time. Aunt and uncle, my mom's sister, my godmother is my auntie Carla and everything. So got to spend time with the fam. So my actual blood family, not my orange and green Hurricanes family, but I missed you guys, and I'm back. So welcome back. Good to see you.
I said it off the top. Duke Johnson is one of those guys. There's a handful of guys. I know you love multiple players from various decades and tons of guys that you have respect for and otherwise, where the emotions swell because of various connections and what they've produced on the field and what they've meant to this football program. But Duke Johnson is near the top of that list. And he has decided that his NFL career is over. He has toted the football at the next level for the last time, and he has decided as a student assistant to now join the Canes.
Yeah, as a grad assistant. So, very talented, young man, definitely someone who is well respected here in South Florida. Went to Miami Norland Senior High School. 5-star All-American, went to Miami. Miami's all-time leading rusher. So this new crop of running backs has a guy who played in the NFL last season and is the all-time leading rusher to ever have worn the orange, green, and white. Back there giving them tips and tricks on their craft. You could do worse. But congratulations to him for having had an NFL career. And obviously all the best as he transitions to the next phase, which, it happens. That's how life goes, guys. Like Mike Rumpf was a first-round NFL draft pick, and then, went into coaching, coached high school. He's here at the, coached at the U, is in the recruiting department. It's a thing that happens. But, yeah, Duke Johnson, man, his legacy in South Florida and with the Hurricanes is huge. Honestly and truly. He's a legend of Miami-Dade high school football. And to Mark's earlier point, he could have gone anywhere in the country. He could have showed up, committed to any team, signed. They would have taken him. But he's a Miami kid. He wanted to be at Miami, said, I'm going to Miami. That's it. I don't care what you're peddling, what you're selling, what your recruiting pitch is here, or what your negative recruiting against Miami is. I don't care. I'm going to Miami. And that mentality is a thing that I've spoken of a lot. And speaking of recruiting and everything, with that wide receiver heretofore never be named, because I saw the pictures of him in his first day at practice wearing scarlet and gray up north. And it almost feels like watching your ex-girlfriend get married to somebody else, because it hurt. He's a specimen. But when I talked about that individual, Jeremiah Smith, that's who, but heretofore never to use the name again. But when I was talking about the fact of somebody needs to stand on business, somebody needs to say, hey, I know that I'm quoting scripture right here, but hey, I'm walking by faith a little bit and not by sight. I know that this other school has done championship, first round pick, and I'm going to put my trust and faith in this coaching staff, these relationships, this stuff here. The analogy is basically, I need somebody as the number one wide receiver to do what Duke Johnson did. Because again, he could have gone anywhere in America. I've told the story before, and I love telling it again. If you're new, you're going to enjoy this one. I know Marcus knows the story, is already smiling. I worked at Miramar High School. We played Norland in the opener. Duke Johnson was suspended or whatever. He came in the press box, whatever. And then they made him leave out because there was only coaches and the timing official and myself, the announcer. That same senior season, my friend and I, the band director, went on, I believe it was a Thursday, might have been a Friday that Miramar had a bye week. We went down to Traz Powell at FIU North or Miami-Dade North to watch Miami Northwestern versus Miami Norland. And my homeboy Andrew went to college with the then director of Northwestern's band. So we're sitting on the Northwestern side of Traz Powell, and they completely segregate that stadium because there's fights and people bring weaponry and things like that. So it's like, hey, one school goes over here, one school goes over there, and never should the twain meet. So we're on the Northwestern side. And Duke Johnson put on a show, the likes of which I have seldom seen. I think he took the opening kickoff back, a punt, 2 rushing touchdowns where he just they pitched it to him or tossed it to him. And remember, Eric Flowers was the left tackle on that team. So Eric Flowers is running out in front of leveling little itty bitty Miami linebackers and safeties while Duke Johnson's going. And it's like, it's highlight reel after highlight reel every time he touches the ball. And I'm just being me. Ooh, oh, whatever. And people and again, he plays for not the team on whose side I'm sitting. And, there's people looking around and everything. And I'm like, oh yeah. And they had this frozen lemonade at Traz Powell sometimes. So I'm like, man, this lemonade is good. And I did about 2 or 3 times for the first 2 or 3 touchdowns. And Duke Johnson, again, did Duke Johnson stuff, makes a jump cut, somebody's touching grass, breaking ankles, whatever. And I reacted. And this octogenarian woman, this grandma-aged woman with gray hair, was sitting a couple rows in front of me. And we were sitting on the walkway. So across the walkway, a couple rows down. And she gets up real slow and she walks over and leans down, says, young man, that's going to be enough of that. Yes, ma'am. And I not a peep the rest of the time. So I almost got jumped by elderly people at Traz Powell watching Duke Johnson put on a show. That's the kind of legacy. That's the kind of electric talent he had, because I knew I was sitting on not the Norland side, but his talent and ability still got the reaction out of me. So I share that because that's one thing I will always remember about Randy Duke Johnson. But yeah, he's a younger guy. Obviously, he just played in the league. It's a great connection back to the U for him as he begins his coaching career. He knows what he's talking about because he did it. So if any of these guys are thinking, well, why should I listen to you? Go into the football operations center, look at the all-time rushing yardage list, see what name is on top, then come holler at me, because that's who it is. And so keeping it in the Hurricane family, great for Duke. I think it's a good move along with the new running backs coach, Merritt. And we're going to keep it pushing from there.
So among other things with that story, it sounds like you were raised right, because I'm guessing had that person been of another age, you may have just been like, hey, it is what it is, and don't be bringing that here.
I mean, maybe in another situation, but I was deep behind enemy lines, man. I was 40 rows up in the middle of the stands on the Northwestern side cheering for Norland. Sometimes you have to admit that you're wrong, right? And just cool. I went over the line. I did whatever. That was my time where, yep, you know what? You're right. Heard. Won't be any more of that, man. Thank you very much. Enjoy your evening. I was clearly wrong, and I had to admit it that time.
And I'm going to take my shot that Cam, when he's on your side, he brings a big smile to your face and a chuckle. But when he's on the other side, can poke you like few.
Yeah. Unintentionally, because again, it wasn't even like I was downplaying the West. I was just, really elated at what I was seeing out of Norland, but that, oil and water kind of a thing. But yeah, so that's a major move for the U and for Duke Johnson as he goes into his coaching career. So good move all around.
Comments and questions, folks. You know the deal. We appreciate the super chat comments as well. And thank you so much for the support here at the Voice of College Football every Wednesday with Cam, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Bring a friend or two or 50 next week with you. So the next would be the obvious spring practice. And I delved into a few different articles and the overriding theme from, again, I know the fan base is so desirous and craving information and intel and all that. But you got to understand, most of the people that get to cover these spring practices, they go in, they see guys stretch and jog around a little bit and mess around a little bit, and typically don't see a lot. But there are then, as we go along, video clips that get out there and so forth. But it seems as though, based on what I gathered, that the wide receiver core was rather impactful through the first day or so.
Yeah, and I mean, shout out to Miami for opening up practice a little bit more. Through the beginning of spring, they've, listening to the podcast and reading things from, and talking to some people who went, they were allowed to be there for like 7-8 sessions or sections of practice, which is way more than just like, okay, stretching and then we're out, So first of all, number one in your program, number one in your heart, Cameron Ward, starting quarterback, is the guy. Like, he just looks to have the it factor, man. He has as big an arm as Tyler Van Dyke, or just about, but he's elusive. He's able to use maybe a couple more passing angles, and just seems like he fits. And look, the first 2 days are, helmets only. So it's not full contact. And I mean, not like the quarterbacks are going to be full contact. No, like, leave him in bubble wrap all the way to the season. Like, like, absolutely no live scrimmaging for the quarterbacks. No. But through the first couple of days, yeah, Cam Ward absolutely looks the part. And again, we don't know what the number is, but if he plays to the level of his talent and ability that we have seen demonstrated, regardless of however much, NIL or whatever it is, like, if he plays to that level and Miami wins 10 or more games regular season, it's a steal at twice the price. Like, that's the impact that this guy can have. And he's unquestionably the number one quarterback going in. And yeah, receivers are doing big things. I saw the first clip, or one of the pictures, somebody put it up on Twitter. Isaiah Horton, now wearing jersey number 2. He seems to have put himself in a spot to take a big step forward. Like, he's every bit of 6'5", looks like he's up to 205 or 208. Like, I mean, he is not the string bean that he once was. And yeah, looks bigger, faster, stronger, quicker. I know it's only, a 60% route, 60% speed on air, but he cuts a different silhouette now. Xavier Restrepo, honestly, now I heard Cam Ward say that Restrepo is going to be a top 5 receiver in next year's NFL draft. While I think that is maybe a bridge too far, you'd be hard pressed to find many more impactful receivers at the college level next season. And is he the biggest guy? He's 5'8 3/4, maybe 5'9". Is he the fastest guy? No, but he's a dog. He doesn't quit. He plays on all the specials. He's pretty much uncoverable in the slot. And he's Colombian Hunter Renfrow, like, kid was uncoverable, and everybody's like, who's this used tire salesman out here? And he's just like, yeah, I'm just going to go put on a Clemson jersey, route you up, and catch touchdowns, and go to the league and do the same thing. And Xavier Restrepo is going to be one of those guys, and it doesn't matter that it's a different quarterback who was not his former roommate or whatever. If he keeps getting open, keeps making plays. And apparently he had the catch of a lifetime in practice today, which was a slot fade, kind of tracking it over, the top of the helmet against Michelle Powell, the nickel safety transfer from Washington. Like double toe tap, corner of the end zone, quarterback, dropped it right in the bucket. And apparently, it was like everything that I saw, heard, and read. Everybody was like, yo, best thing I've seen. Like D Money from Kane's Insights. Like, I've been going to, or he says he has been going to Miami Hurricanes practices for 30 years. And there's pictures of him with Jesse Armstead in college on Green Tree and da-da-da. He's like, 30 or more years that I've been coming to practice, ain't never seen anything like that. David and Gabby on the 247, the Inside the U podcast, where they talked about it for 4 minutes. Like, everybody who was there was like, that was incredible. It was one of the greatest plays that we've seen, period, ever from anyone in a Miami Hurricanes practice. And again, with guys who've been there more than a little bit, right? So if he's able to do that, I mean, look, he keeps making plays. He comes back off of a 1,000-yard season. Yeah, he's a fifth-year senior, but like, why would I think that? I mean, obviously, despite maybe the distribution changing a little bit, but the quality of his performance and addition to the offense should be the same. And I haven't even gotten to the prize of the class at wide receiver, JoJo Trader from Chaminade. And he's a guy who is so incredibly skilled. Like during the All-American game practices, like he'll just do these trick catches and these super athletic things and whatever. And the other receivers at the All-American game were like, yo, JoJo, teach me how to do that. And JoJo is kind of like Michael Jordan, the coach, who was really, really terrible. He's like, I don't know what to tell you. I just do it. But he's doing things like that. He had a couple long touchdowns in the couple first days of practice. Again, multiple people citing long touchdowns today during one-on-ones, which is something that the people who go to practice usually don't see, the one-on-one periods, but they've been able to see that. You got Nye Carr making plays, working mainly as an outside receiver, not slot. Robbie Washington, Ray Joseph making plays. So, yeah, it seems that like the offense is substantially in front of the defense. Now, Miami is missing Damari Brown at cornerback due to a minor injury right now. Robert Stafford also out at cornerback. So, a couple of the guys who you figure will be, at least Damari, he's competing to be cornerback one. Honestly, Robert Stafford might take a step forward, but them not being there, yeah, there's maybe a difference in quality, but the passing game seems to be something that Miami can and should lean on. And will in the spring. You're missing Mark Fletcher, who changed his number back to his high school number of 4 and will be the number 1 running back. But yeah, a lot of good things. And you're still missing some other guys. Both Maui-Noa brothers are out after minor procedures in the off season. So you're seeing some guys shuffle around. Pancake Honcho, Samson Okunlola getting looks at first team left guard right now. And, he'll move around a little bit. Matthew McCoy will move around a little bit on the offensive line and everything. But, yeah, it's early days in spring. There are some guys who are sitting out. The more athletic guys on the roster are going to – that's not something you can turn off. So, like in shorts and a T-shirt, I'm just more athletic and bigger than you, so that's going to pop. I'm interested to see how things develop throughout. But again, really the spring is for, number one, always no injuries or as few injuries as possible, and really leaning into all of the development of everyone. I don't necessarily need to just push on what you do well. We need to now address some of those gap areas. We do the gap analysis, find where our, areas for improvement are, focus on those so that, when it goes through the summer, you're able to work on those more so that a better, more well-rounded player shows up in July going into August than is in front of us right now in March.
Folks, we do appreciate you being here. Keep those comments and questions rolling. Somebody had asked about the defensive backfield and if there are no additions through the transfer portal, if you've got a good feel on how that should shake out.
In terms of like who plays,
Yeah.
Damari Brown and Daryl Porter, I believe, should be your starting corners this year. Set it and forget it. Lance Guidry showed it last year, but also I think this year we're going to go and can be multiple at that overhang, that star position or striker, whatever you want to call it. So if it's the nickel corner, it's going to be Michelle Powell from Washington, the safety kind of hybrid corner position. It seems like he's going to be there in front. Remember Dylan Day from Southern Lab Senior High School, the signee in this class. He's working behind him, behind Powell at that position so far. And that's a guy who can be impactful. In terms of like that linebacker safety hybrid, multiple guys, your Bobby Washingtons, your Caleb Spencers of the world there. So it depends on which way you want to go. If you want a bigger body at that overhang, or if you want a smaller body, one who's more safety corner or one who's more linebacker safety. But there are multiple dudes with plenty of athleticism in both groups to be able to go. In terms of safety, I think, I forget the other kid's name, the transfer from Vanderbilt.
Richard?
Not Jaden Richard. Like, because he's already here. There was one from previous year. There's another one. I think he would start, and then maybe like a Jaden Harris out of Georgia, man. This is a kid who was a 3-star, but like looking at his film, like doing blind evals with people that I know and trust, I'm like, just, which is get the huddle link, send it to a friend, say skip to 7 seconds in so you get past the opening screens of who I am, where I'm from, what my stats are, and just watch the film. And multiple people that I know and trust who even work in football, they're like, how is this? Like, this kid's a 4-star, right? Like, and I don't know, but he was the first guy off the bench. Savion Riley, thank you, Yellow 265. So he would start, then maybe Jaden Harris next to him with some options. A guy like Marquise Williams from Orlando Jones, or Markeith Williams, I should say. Like, this is the time to step forward. So if you're going to develop, that would be that. Brad Tejada, man, I appreciate you being in here, brother. Thanks so much, man. Hit the like and subscribe. And also, Brad does, some of the podcasts over at Canes Insight with D-Money. So be sure that you listen to that as well as you're looking for other Canes content to consume. But yeah, man, appreciate that. So, if we started that group, I would be a little concerned. I would say I would be a little bit, as in if that group started with no other additions. Now, if your linebackers continue to play to the level of their talent, like Akiko Mawinoa and Wesley the Saint, who I believe should be the starting pair, and then you add whoever next to them at that second level, and your defensive line gets everybody back and gets up the field, that can help them out a little bit. But just like in a vacuum, what I think the defensive backfield looks like right now, I would love like one in a possible transfers of guys who can compete for playing time. Like definitely one at either position. If we get that possible, make it 2, like one at corner and one at safety, I would be over the moon if they are of the caliber that I'm talking about. Not just like a guy, not me, at my big age and unathletic build. Like, oh, we got Cam Underwood to come play safety. With mascot, free visit, not going to come off the sideline if we even took, I'm not looking for me. I'm looking for a guy who can compete for playing time at this level. If we got one in each room, that would make me feel a lot more settled with the defensive backfield moving into the season.
Yeah, to echo what Kim said, Brad, thank you so much for being here. Brad's done a great job at Canes Insight, of course, for years, and also has helped us out here at the Voice of College Football a number of times. So good to see Brad. And way too early to tell, but we'll throw it at Cam in regards to maybe not necessarily what's transpired already, but what he's looking for. Demetrius asking about the trenches on both sides of the ball.
I mean, they're working in new guys on both sides. Excuse me. Somebody who's standing out, seems to be a Jared Harrison Hunt at defensive tackle. Former basketball player, Christ the King in New York, 6-year senior now. Really big that he's coming back for this team. So he's going to be like a leader. Some of your transfers at defensive tackle, not Thomas Gore, Jesus. I just got another name wrong. Lord help me. I just saw it too. But like a Marley Cook, he's a guy in the rotation of defensive tackle and everything. And along, the offensive line, like I said, Samson Okunlola, Matthew McCoy, plugging into some of those currently open and available slots with Francis Mawanoa out at right tackle. And then Miami's looking for a new left guard. Zach Carpenter, the Indiana transfer, is going to be the center and everything. Markel Bell, the 6'9", 350-pound tackle, working at second team right guard. Second team right tackle, excuse me. Looking okay, but again, you really want, for me, to see the individual development of all of those guys, and especially some guys who need to reshape their body, like a Markel Bell, maybe needs to get a little bit more brute strength onto his frame and everything. But, work on the technique in general, and then work to find who your 5 are going to be for the fall, and then, have them work together over the summer, like when you have the 5. But especially until you get Big 61 back at right tackle, you're not really able to evaluate effectively, I don't think, the entire offensive line, because Cameron, get your stuff together. Jalen Rivers at left tackle, Zach Carpenter at center, Anez Cooper at right guard, and Mawanoa at right tackle. I'm comfortable, etch those in stone, bring the tablets down off Mount Sinai, set it and forget it. So you're really looking for that left guard to fill in to complete that 5. Is that a Matthew McCoy? Is that a Pancake Okunlola popping inside before you move him outside to tackle? Is it somebody else on the roster? What is going to be the formation of the 5 who are going to work in front of Cam Ward? That's a thing that I think we'll find out more further along in spring. And also, Demetrius, we really need to wait, because shorts and t-shirt, they're playing patty cake. Let them pads come on. And then, they start leaning on each other on, pass rush, pass pro, inside run, 11 on 11, things like that. When those pads start popping, then you'll really start to be able to see how the OL and DL are working through the spring. First 2 days of every practice grouping, other than bowl, because bowl is like tacked onto the season. But for spring and fall camp, first 2 days, helmets only, get your body reacclimated. After 2 days of acclimation, then you can go to shells, then you can go to full pads. So when we get to shells, we'll start to see some physicality. When you get to full pads, then you'll really be able to see. So that's kind of how it's looking a little bit just on who's playing. I would say put a pin in that. Let's circle back. Well, not next week, because next week is UM spring break. But let's circle back in like 2 or 3 weeks as we go to week 2. Well, yeah. So 2 weeks from now is week 2. And then 3 weeks from now is week 3 of spring. So let's circle back later this month, and then we'll see how things are going once the pads start popping with the big boys.
And to me, that's a fascinating dynamic that we don't get to see and we'll never know. But it's one thing that we can all relate to if we've ever played competitive sports. And that's not the games themselves. That's participating and competing against guys guys that you either just know because you're part of a group, a family, whatever you want to call it, or they're your buddies, but you got to line up against them. And during that, especially during spring for this football team and during August for this football team, that you get done after 2 tough hours on a football field and you're in the locker room together and you kind of catch each other's eye and who won those battles.
Oh, yeah.
And man, I got to pick it up, or I'm in a good place here, but I got to keep it going. It's just that dynamic. Again, we don't get to see that. We don't know what happens. Now we get a reflection of that, obviously, when the starting the depth chart comes out, and we know, okay, we know who's who, but still, that's fascinating to me.
Yeah, man, and everybody has to put on. I mean, it's just like, if you're a defense, let's take a guy who's no longer here, as in has transferred out, not passed away, but Cyrus Moss, right? Defensive end, 4-star recruit, Bishop Gorman, need to add a little bit of weight and everything. I'm sure this time last year, he was, man, I really got to work on it. I really got to work on it. While Ruben Bain is in his locker, bumping Rick Ross, rapping every word, vibing, I'm good, because, man, these guys, like, I did this today, I did that, I had this tackle for loss, I busted out this move. Bro, you saw how Coach Taylor coached me on my swim move or my rip, and I did that to him. Hey, man, yeah, I did that. While, again, same position, different guy, while guy over here is vibing, he's head down looking at the linoleum or whatever the floor is, like, I got to get that. I got to make it work. So it's interesting to Mark's point, have the individual dynamic of like everybody taking their individual journey, but fitting it into the context of the team that's working collectively as well. One of the great kind of issues or things that pops up with sport.
Because we see Miami as a unified unit against the opponent on Saturday afternoon, but there is that competitive fleshing out of who's best, who's the dog, who's going to win these battles, who's going to win the job. And that's one of the great portions of recruiting that you could speak to much better than I. But that's one of the reasons why maybe being at a school like, we could fill in the blank of 7 and 8 win teams, and I'm not picking on Miami here because they're kind of a separate 7-win team that has better talent than they show with the win total. But if you, let's say, get a high 4-star in the wide receiver room, but he's really the only dude that can play at that level, well, it's up to him to push himself and the coaches to push him to be as good as he can be, because he knows, if I'm 75% of my path myself and I just show up and do my work and do it at a decent rate, I'm gonna start and catch my 50 balls this year. But if you got a wide receiver room like a certain place in Columbus, Ohio, or pick your unit on either side of the ball and go to Georgia or wherever you want to go for your destination, and you got like 8 dudes in whatever the defensive line group or the wide receiver room or whatever, and they're pushing each other, then you got to not just be 4-star that can just kind of go through the motions. You are pushed to the hilt.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to bring in outside players to help with that development. Miami did that with KJ Osborne years ago because, players like D. Wiggins and Mark Pope, who was everybody's All-American and everybody wanted, it didn't end up working out that way. So, yeah, we do have to our iron sharpens iron. You got to continue to, have great opponents in your own building, so recruiting the opposite position. Like I said, y'all already know, I worked at Miramar High School for many, many years. One of the things that made Tracy Howard and Malcolm Lewis, a cornerback and wide receiver respectively, great, is that every day they went against the other one in practice. They never – it was a disservice to them if you're like, hey, man, Tracy, how about you go cover Brian and then – Gerald go cover, like, no, why am I going to put somebody, like, no, I need the best player to go against. And that, when you're building a roster the way that Mario Cristobal is trying to, you're going to have that everywhere. So you're going to have an awesome defensive line. You're going to have a Ruben Bain practicing opposite of Francis Mawinoa. You know what I mean? You're going like that right there. You're going to have that. You're going to have that in the wide receiver and cornerback room. You're going to have that with your tight ends and your safeties and linebackers. You're going to have that. And yeah, it is incumbent upon the coaching staff and, whole talent acquisition apparatus in Miami to get it there. And, they're working on it. So there's still some gaps and, everything's not going to be perfect every single year. But I think after this recruiting cycle coming into his like a third full cycle, his fourth one, because that first Nigel Kelly class was a little piece of class, but 3 full cycles. This time next year, the roster should 100% look the way that Mario wants it to.
When you mention the names Mark Pope and D. Wiggins, it takes me back to sitting here in front of you where it seemed like for 5 or 6 years, it wasn't that long, but it seemed like for a long time just talking about, they should be better. They need to be better.
Dropping the ball.
The other thing that comes to mind is, and certainly correct me if I'm wrong, but if there's been one constant pre-Mario Cristobal that was a disappointment more consistently than any other unit on this team, it was offensive line. And now, of course, this staff is recruiting out of its mind in every area with every positional unit, but you got to figure if there's a given in terms of we're going to take care of business because we're going to recruit offensive linemen. And even if we don't get the cream of the crop, we're sure as hell going to develop them as well. We've got that covered as well. So that should not be a concern going forward.
I mean, it should not be, but again, you have to be intentional about how you're doing it. And to the previously asked question multiple times of, hey, where do you think that Miami is going to focus in this recruiting class, trying to, bring in the next level of talent? We're circling back to the offensive line. You got the number 1 offensive line class in the country 2 years ago. The 23 class with Mawinoa and Okunlola and all them, other guys, some who are developmental, so they're coming into their second year. Then last year, okay, you bring in a decent number, but a couple of those guys are going to take some time. And now we need to put bigger numbers, but also need to pull from the top of the list, get some more top-end offensive line here. Good question. Sorry, I was giving space for Mark to read it.
And for you folks only listening, I will do that because I should. Brad is asking, who needs the bigger season this year on offense, Arroyo or Horton?
That's a really great question because last year, Miami's tight ends were pretty much non-existent, and Miami needs as well. So a different point of conversation is Miami needs a number 1 wide receiver. And again, love Xavier Restrepo, but he's physically limited to a point where you need a big physical presence. Amon Richards was 6'1.5", 6'2", but when he was on the field, everybody knew it. The passing game starts with number 82 over there, period. And you could throw it to him in any kind of a way. He would get open. Even if he was short of the sticks, he's going to make that conversion. All those, you can call him plays. And Horton gives that potential. For me, I think that Miami could be able to, again, have a diversity of input and impact at wide receiver, including Horton, and others that could be enough. I think Elijah Arroyo getting healthy and being himself again and revitalizing the tight end position and bringing it pretty much from zero back into the offense, I think that would be transformational for everything that we do. And for that reason, I'm saying I think the bigger season, it's more important for Arroyo because there was absolutely just nothing there at tight end last year. I would love to see it from Arroyo and Horton and JoJo and Nikar. I would love it to be everybody. But if I had to pick one of those that were asked, I think Elijah Arroyo having a big year at tight end is more essential for success for Miami.
Horton caught 13 last year for $168 and a touchdown, and Elijah Arroyo just had the one reception and again was injured.
Yeah, for the majority of the year, and it was, not great.
It's kind of an interesting dynamic in a sense when you talk about Restrepo not being a number 1, but Hunter Renfrow. I blanked for
Mhm.
a second. Hunter Renfrow. You make that correlation many times, and it totally works. That Hunter Renfrow, he's not the number one receiver type, look, build, anything like that, and he wasn't at Clemson. But in a way, he was in some instances, the best receiver. So
Mhm.
that's like Restrepo. He's the best receiver on the team until proven otherwise, but he's not a number one receiver. Two different things.
Absolutely. And I mean, look, that's not to take anything away. Like, you can put him in good positions to be impactful. I mean, like, Hunter Renfrow caught the touchdown that, won them the national championship game. Like, you can leverage what Xavier Restrepo does. And, like, even to the point, if you guys remember last year, on the last offensive snap against Florida State, Miami drew up a play for Xavier Restrepo when Tyler Van Dyke came in after Emory Williams snapped his arm. They called a him play. And they were like, cool, we're going to put him in this situation. We're going to run a 15-yard out. You got a big quarterback. That's his former roommate. He wants to look for him anyway. He's going to be open because we know what Florida State is going to run coverage-wise. Throw him the ball, and he's going to be there. And Tyler refused to do it. But in that high-leverage instance on fourth in the ball game, and then he tried to throw it back across his body in the middle of the inning and got intercepted. But on that play, which was for Miami's offense, fourth in the ball game, you dialed up something for Xavier Restrepo. And honestly, go back and watch the film. He's butt naked, wide the fuck ass open. And the quarterback didn't do it. So again, I'm not saying that it's just going to be Randy ratio, right? Where it's, or Randy Moss, snap hut. I put my hand up on D'Angelo Hall, who runs 4.2 and has never been run by ever. And he's like, this man hasn't even stepped off the line, and he put the mailbox up, which is throw that bitch, I'm going to go get it. I'm not saying that Restrepo's going to be that, but from the Florida State game you saw it, and from others, you can dial, and again, if you make the correlation that he's Colombian Hunter Renfrow, you can dial plenty of stuff up and have him be an impactful part of this offense. And if he's making plays that many people say were the best play that they've ever seen in a Miami Hurricanes practice, he's not bad. I'm not saying that, but you can win with a guy like that, playing his role, doing his job very well, and guys around him, Arroyo, Horton, Trader, and others, stepping up as well to complement what he does, because quite honestly, there is a ceiling to it, but he does what he does to an elite level.
Yeah, Hunter Renfrow was catching 90 balls, 10 touchdowns, whatever the numbers were, something like that. But he also had Mike Williams and Artavis Scott and those dudes. Absolutely, absolutely. I saw a clip on X/Twitter this afternoon with Lance Guidry, and I thought, is somebody posting this because, there's always the reporter in the room who asks kind of the oddball question because he's from,
Louisiana,
the back end of whatever little hick town, and they got a player that made the team, so he wants to ask about him even though he's a non-factor.
Yeah.
But Lance Guidry was asked about our guy Poffenbarger. Did I pronounce that correctly? I'm not looking at the name right now.
Yeah.
And he just, of course, he's going to compliment him. He waxed poetically about him, but then I saw some other comments made on the topic, and then Terry's making a comment here. Does the guy have some legitimate talent?
Yeah, he does. I mean, he's playing it's through 2 practices of spring in shorts and t-shirts and helmets. So read into it what you will, but he's clearly the number 2 right now. I know that Emory's working his way back after the arm and everything. Judd is Judd. And I think, a couple of years away from playing anyway. Apparently Jakari Brown looking like he's taking a little step forward, maybe, possibly, making some good throws. He was, saying that it's the most comfortable he's felt, and people, who were at practice saying that Jakari looked more polished and clean than he has before, which is the issue, and we all knew that. So I know it's only 2 days of spring, but even being able to have that known and like a visible thing 2 days in the spring is a positive. But yeah, Poffenbarger, man, he plays with moxie. He made a couple big throws. Apparently made a big throw to Riley Williams on the sideline today. A couple other throws and plays and things. So yeah, he's looking like he can compete here. And that's huge because, I mean, yeah, we have 5 in the room right now, but yeah, you're hard pressed to find many quarterback rooms in their entirety at present that you would definitively take over Miami. Cam Ward, handful, maybe best returning quarterback in the country. Poffenbarger, multiple seasons of 3,000 yards. He had 3,600 yards and 42 tutties at, FCS last year. Emory started the game and he showed plenty of promise. Jakari Brown is a transformer, and then, Judd is a kid who, as a sophomore in high school, averaged 19 and 13 in basketball and is a legit like 6'6.5", 6'7" with plenty of arm talent. Like, now, I'm not saying that you got 5 dudes that you feel comfortable running out there right now, but you'd be hard pressed to find a quarterback room like many that you're going to hands down take over what Miami has. Now, there are a couple, I could see where if you're like, hey, I'm taking Texas's room. They got Quinn Ewers and number 16, who has declined to be in the college football video game, who only is doing that based on the strength of the family legacy of the 7 names or 7 letters that reside on the back of his uniform. But whatever. If you want to say I got Ewers and I got that number 16 kid and whoever else they recruited this year, I would rather Texas's room. You want to say whoever Lincoln Riley has at SC, I prefer their room. If you even look and say Dylan Gabriel in his 17th year at Oregon and another developmental year for Dante Moore, plus whoever they signed at Oregon, maybe I'll take that room. And maybe there's a couple others that you might have in a conversation. But top to bottom, and especially the fact that there are 5 of them in the room right now, which I know is one more than optimal, but whatever. But 5 in the room right now with the quality it looks like at the top, and Poffenbarger showing he's more game than people might have thought. You're hard pressed to find a quarterback room in America that is full sail better than Miami.
What makes that difficult to evaluate is that, so take Ohio State. They've got 2 high 4 stars that were already on the roster. They just brought in 2 of the top 5 quarterbacks in the nation in this recruiting class. And then they brought in a more than serviceable, really good quarterback in Will Howard, who won a Big 12 championship.
Yeah.
But if the guy doesn't get hurt, meaning Cam Ward or a number of guys that you just mentioned, then that's your quarterback room because that's right. The guy that's going to play, and he's going to play the only meaningful snaps. Now, so I would throw Ohio State in that mix, but okay. They've got great depth. They've got ridiculous talent and potential, but those guys aren't going to play. And if Cam Ward plays and doesn't get hurt, then that's your quarterback room again, to the point that there's only one guy that plays.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying, you even like considering for that, like we've seen it in Miami, we've been in a position where that's not necessarily like the options available, and the chronology of those options leaves a lot to be desired. Like when Miami brought in Jake Heaps, at 25 years old after he did his Mormon mission, and it was at BYU and then Kansas and everything, it was like, is he going to play? And then, I mean, look, I have an affinity for Ryan Williams because he won a state championship at Miramar in 2009. I was excited to see, hey, maybe, and he started at Memphis as a freshman and then transferred home to Miami. I was excited to see that. He blew out his knee in a spring scrimmage or a fall scrimmage. And then like after that, it's like, okay, we got this baseball player catcher who's transitioning to football in Malik Rozier and Trinidad Brad Kaya. And it's just like, or Jake Heaps, and he's like the known commodity. And then Al Golden was just like, bro, we're going to go with the freshman kid. But like, when you look at that room at that state, you remove Ryan Williams, you have Jake Heaps, unrated basically Malik Rozier and a 4-star Brad Kaya. Like, that's definitely not a position that, or a room that you feel as comfortable with as you would OSU, Miami, Texas, Oklahoma. Oklahoma is Jackson Dart and nobody else, not Jackson Arnold and nobody else. Things like that, like where the composition of everyone in the room makes you feel a little bit more comfortable. So I think that Miami's in a good spot with that. But obviously, yeah, we need the health of Cam Ward, because as he goes, we go.
We haven't brought up the name Malik Rozier in quite some time, but I got to say, as soon as you say that name, I think that's so strange to me that, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think that he was the worst thrower of the football of any Miami starting quarterback, certainly since we've been doing this, in my estimation. But he played on, even if it wasn't the best team, and it was arguably the best team, the most successful Miami team since 2004-5 range, and he was the quarterback.
Fact. Yeah, it's, if I lean on my musical background, the weakest cast member in the original cast of Hamilton was the guy who wrote Hamilton. You know what I mean? Like, and he like, look, I wrote it, I'm gonna cast myself and everything, but it was just like, bro, like, you see Jasmine Jones out there, Jonathan Groff, who was the son in a cast of stars, like Leslie Odom Jr., Christopher, I forget his last name, but like you had all these incredible talents, and they're rapping and singing and dancing and everything, and it's just like, I'm the guy who wrote it, so like, yeah, and it's like, and he was a passenger to the success of the collective in a similar way where I think that Malik, now, again, he did make some plays. He was able to persevere through and like, but like in so many ways that season, like he was a passenger to the success of the collective, especially because like that damn turnover chain that year was like an invincibility star from Mario. Like that thing came out once or twice a ball game and like just, yeah, we just hulked up and just like smashed everything. It was crazy.
You gave Mario that team.
Huh?
You just gave Mario.
No, like a invincibility star from Mario.
Yeah. I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. Yeah, these guys are so good throwing the football that even bad quarterbacks, they're typically bad in the Power 5 level. Typically, there are some rough guys to watch out there. The guy at Rutgers is a runner. He's not a thrower. There are a few guys out there like that, but most of them are so good that their problems are decision making. It's more about that they don't see what they should be seeing, don't make the right decisions, but they can all, again, I'm talking about like 80 to 90% of the guys in the Power 5 can let it fly, let it rip, look great throwing the ball. And Malik Rozier just did not look comfortable throwing the ball and letting it loose. Like half the time he's like throwing the ball into the dirt, like 6 yards in front of Braxton Berrios. It's like, what's going on here?
Braxton Berrios still in the league, by the way. Just want to point that out there for everybody who's still mad that we took him instead of Isaiah Joystick McKenzie out of American Heritage that year. Just wanted to say that. Just wanted to put it out there for my boy Brax and everything. But you are not wrong in your assessment, sir.
So before we say goodbye tonight, I'm going to throw a wild card at you since you brought up that assessment right there. Off the top of your head, your proudest discovery of a recruit, a guy that maybe was way under the radar that you thought, I like that guy. He's going to outplay his star ranking. He came through.
Wow.
Maybe we'll get back to this some other week. You can
let me put a pin in that one. There are a couple that I was very staunchly advocating for. I know because there were a couple that I've advocated more than others. I will have to look back at that.
I was just curious if somebody came to mind.
No, I don't have one. I mean, like, I don't have a firm one off the top of my head. I will have to sit back and think of like somebody who I was really like pounding the table for, and they ended up, paying off in that kind of a way. I will really have to think about it. But Corey, appreciate the love, man. Excellent as always. I don't know about that. It was a little rusty for me coming back after a week off, but felt great. Get back behind the microphone in front of the camera with you guys and everything. Like I said, my Miami family, because I was with my actual blood family last week. So glad to be back. Glad you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, hopefully Miami just continues to develop every single player every single day as we work through spring. The third spring practice is this week on Friday, and then a week off of practice for their spring break. But we will be here to discuss more next Wednesday night.
Fun show, folks. Appreciate you being here. Hit the like button on the way out. State of the U for March Madness. Anything in particular there to be looking out for?
Just our This Week in Basketball, because I think the season's going to end pretty soon because we're on a nasty losing streak, and they're playing right now and probably losing. So who knows? But yeah, please come on over and fan with us at State of the U. Got plenty of stuff coming for you. I know I've been a little quiet. The secret day job has been super duper 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 secret, like triple secret crazy, like the last month and a half. But my fingers will do the walking on the keyboard. We're going to get back out there with all kinds of stuff for you. So please continue to rock with us. Please continue to fan with us, and we'll see you over there sometime soon.
ACC basketball tournament for the men next week, right? And we're looking at 14 teams. What's the format now? Everybody still makes it, right?
Yeah, 15 teams. So
15 with Notre Dame.
Yeah, exactly. So there's 8 buys, 9 buys, and then 4 double buys into the quarters. So Miami will not be receiving any kind of a bye. Like, we're towards the bottom, so we will be playing. It'll be 5 wins in 5 days if they're going to win, which I do not foresee happening. But stranger things have happened, and we can hope. But we will see about that. So yeah, we'll check in about that next week.
It's one of those typical like Tuesday noon Eastern time games. Nobody's in the gym, just getting the tournament started, and your season might be over in about 90 minutes from now.
Looking that way, the way that it's going this year. So yeah.
All right, Cam. Appreciate it, man. As always.
Hey, anytime, guys. We'll catch you guys next week. Take care.